Hi, I'm Anna, and this is your quick guide to economics and finance. If you want to understand what's happening in the markets and how it affects your wallet, you're in the right place. Let's go. What is XRP and why does it exist? Imagine you live in Russia and want to send money to a friend in the USA. Right now, it takes 3 to 5 days, costs a lot. Your bank charges 5 to 10% commission, and you can't see where your money is at any given moment. This happens because there's no direct connection between your Russian bank and the American bank. Your money travels through several intermediate banks, correspondent banks, each one taking its own commission, and the entire process is extremely slow. XRP is a cryptocurrency created by the company Ripple in 2012 to solve exactly this problem. The idea is simple. If all banks and payment systems use XRP, then transfers between countries will be instant, cheap, and transparent. Instead of money traveling through 5-10 intermediate banks, it simply gets converted to XRP in one country, travels across the network in seconds, and gets converted back to the local currency in another country. Sounds revolutionary? And it truly is revolutionary in concept. But there's a big problem. For 13 years of XRP's existence, this hasn't happened. Let's figure out why. The history of XRP and Ripple, promises versus reality. The beginning, 2012-2017. XRP was created as part of Ripple's payment network. Unlike Bitcoin, created anonymously and owned by no one, or Ethereum, created by Vitalik Buterin as a platform for everyone, XRP was created by Ripple as a tool for its own payment system. Initially, this made logical sense. Ripple went to banks and told them, "We can accelerate your international payments 100 times over if you use our network and XRP token." Sounds good, and bankers listened carefully. By 2013-2014, Ripple had signed agreements with several small banks. By 2017, when the entire crypto market exploded, XRP skyrocketed from 0.005 to $3.50. Investors were ecstatic. XRP seemed like the cryptocurrency for banks, unlike Bitcoin, which nobody recognized. 2017-2023, long promises. Ripple continued signing contracts with banks. By 2020, the company announced it was working with 300+ banks worldwide. That number sounds impressive. 300 banks. Does this mean XRP has almost conquered the international payments market? No. And here's why. Most of these partnerships simply meant banks tried Ripple's platform as an alternative communication method for international payments. Imagine using Telegram for work. That doesn't make you an investor in Telegram or mean you rely on Telegram for all important decisions. It's just a communication tool. Most importantly, none of these 300+ banks actually used the XRP token itself. They used RippleNet, which is simply a reliable system for communication between banks. XRP was optional. Most banks continued operating the same way as before, just using Ripple's platform instead of SWIFT. 2023-2025, the collapse of illusions. In September 2023, a lawsuit occurred between the SEC, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and Ripple. The SEC argued that XRP was a security that was sold illegally without registration. Ripple countered that XRP is simply a token, like Bitcoin, not a security. The court handled this question for a long time, and finally in July 2023 ruled, XRP is not necessarily a security. This was a big victory for Ripple and the reason XRP skyrocketed in price at the end of 2023 and early 2024. But even this victory didn't solve the fundamental problem. Banks still weren't using XRP. Why? Why don't banks use XRP? 3 main reasons. Reason 1, regulatory barriers, Basel III. Imagine you're a banker. Your boss and regulators constantly demand that you hold enough capital, money, in the bank in case of emergencies. This is a complex system called Basel III, created by international banking regulators. Basel III says, if you hold normal money, dollars, euros, you need to hold a certain percentage of capital. If you hold company stocks, you need to hold more capital, because stocks are more risky. If you hold crypto, you need to hold a huge amount of capital, because crypto is very risky. Specifically, Basel III says that if a bank holds XRP, it must hold $12.50 in capital for every $1 of XRP. This is called 1/250% risk weight. Let's do the math. Imagine an international payment requires $1 million in XRP to ensure liquidity, the ability to quickly convert. Under Basel III, the bank must reserve $12.5 million in capital just for this. That's an enormous sum of money that simply sits idle and generates no income for the bank. Compare this with dollar-pegged stablecoins like USDC, USDT, which have a 0% risk weight because they're fully backed by dollars. Or even Bitcoin, which is also 1,250%, but at least it's better known and more stable. For any rational bank, this is impossible. If you can use a dollar-pegged stablecoin with 0% risk weight or XRP with 1,250% risk weight, the choice is obvious. XRP is financial death for banks. Reason 2, cryptocurrency volatility and risk. Even if regulators allowed banks to hold XRP without large capital requirements, another problem remains. XRP's price bounces up and down like crazy. In December 2024, XRP traded at $2. In November, it was at $3. In October, around $2.20. In just 4 months, the price changed 50 to 70%. That's enormous volatility. Now imagine a bank telling its management, we're going to hold reserves in XRP for international payments. The boss asks, what if XRP's price drops 50% tomorrow? We'll lose half our reserves. There's nothing to say back. The risk is too great. Compare this with dollars, euros, or even dollar-pegged stablecoins, whose price always stays at $1. That's not volatile. That's stable. Banks love stability. Reason 3, alternatives are cheaper and faster. In 2024-2025, new technologies appeared that solve the same problem as XRP, but better. The main competitor is Solana, SOL. Solana can process 65,000 payments per second. XRP can only do 1,500. Payments on Solana cost 0,025. Payments on XRP, well, they're slower. In October 2025, Western Union, the world's largest payment system, operating for 174 years and serving 100+ million customers, announced it would use Solana for its new stablecoin USDPT. Why did it choose Solana instead of XRP? Because Solana is faster, cheaper, and already has an entire ecosystem of payment applications built on it. PayPal also chose Solana, moving its PYUSD stablecoin from Ethereum to Solana. This is objective reality. New alternatives work better than XRP. Current state of XRP, numbers and facts. Price and investments. As of December 2025, XRP trades at $2.01. This means down 8% year-to-date, despite SEC victory and ETF launch. Price is far below the $10 target many investors predicted at the start of 2025 market capitalization, approximately $110 billion, solid, but less than Solana. In November 2025, the first XRP ETFs were launched, Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, Canary. This allowed traditional investors and funds to buy XRP through regular brokers without needing to use crypto exchanges. Sounds good? But here's the catch. When people buy XRP through an ETF, that money goes into cold storage, the ETF provider's vault. It doesn't generate any activity in the XRP network itself. It's simply speculation on price. On-chain activity, what's actually happening in the XRP network. Here's where you see the real picture. September 2025. Average daily activity in the XRP network was $23 million. December 2025. Average daily activity dropped to $12 million. That's a 48% decline in just 3 months. In other words, despite growing investor interest, ETF launches, SEC victory, actual XRP usage in the network is falling. People are buying XRP as a speculative asset, but nobody is actually using it. Partnerships and real usage. Ripple claims 300+ bank partners. But looking at reality, most banks use RippleNet as a communication system, nothing more. Very few banks actually convert money to XRP and back. Those few who tried quickly gave up, because Basel III barriers and volatility make it unprofitable. Ripple knows about this problem. Instead of waiting for banks to use XRP, the company started creating its own stablecoins, RLUSD, Ripple USD. But this is ironic. If XRP is so great for payments, why is Ripple itself creating a competing product? What actually happened to XRP in 2025? Good news. SEC didn't call XRP a security. This means Ripple can continue developing its project without additional legal restrictions. ETF launches. Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, and others launched XRP ETF products, giving traditional investors access. Organizational development. Ripple continues hiring, opening offices in different countries, and developing new technologies. Bad news. On-chain activity is falling. As we've seen, XRP network usage is going down. Competition is increasing. Solana, Stellar, Polygon, and other blockchains offer similar or better solutions for international payments. Regulatory barriers remain. The Basel III 1,250% risk weight stays the same, and there's no sign it will change. Price isn't growing. Despite good news, XRP's price remains stagnant. XRP versus Solana. Why Solana is winning. This is a good moment to compare XRP with its main competitor, Solana, SOL. Speed and cost. XRP, 1,500 transactions per second. Confirmation in 3 to 5 seconds. Fee, minimal, but the network is slow. Solana, 65,000 transactions per second, 43x faster. Confirmation in 400 milliseconds. Fee, essentially zero, 0.025. The difference is significant. In practice, this means if an international payment on XRP takes 10 minutes, including conversion, on Solana it takes 10 seconds. Ecosystem and development. XRP. Payment network, not a platform. No smart contracts, can't write programs, can't create new applications based on XRP ecosystem, only banks and payment providers. Solana. Full platform for decentralized applications. Has smart contracts, DeFi applications, NFTs, games. Thousands of developers building on Solana annual ecosystem revenue, $285 billion monthly average, $240, $250 million. This means something new, interesting, and profitable is constantly happening on Solana. On XRP, just payments back and forth. Partnerships and adoption. XRP, 300+ banks, but they don't use the XRP token. No major corporate partnerships in 2025. Western Union chose not XRP, but Solana PayPal chose not XRP, but Solana. Western Union launching USDPT on Solana, 100M+ users. PayPal migrated PYUSD to Solana Stripe, integrating Solana Payments Magic Eden NFT marketplace on Solana Radium, DEX, on Solana Real, active partnerships with major companies. Not just agreed to cooperate, but implementing our technology right now. Relationship to price, revenue versus speculation. XRP, no network revenue. Price depends only on speculation and hopes for the future. If hopes aren't fulfilled, as in 2025, price falls or stagnates. Solana generates real revenue, 2.85B per year. Price reflects actual usage and value. Even when the market falls, Solana is more resilient due to real revenue investment perspective. Should you buy XRP? Arguments for optimists. Clarity Act could pass. If the U.S. Senate passes the Clarity Act, it will reclassify cryptocurrencies, and this could help XRP. Basel III could change. If banking regulators lower the risk weight for XRP, unlikely but theoretically possible, it would be a game changer. Banks could suddenly start using XRP, unlikely but not impossible. Price is far from its peak. XRP was once at $3.50, so theoretically it could return there. ETFs attract new investors. Even if it's speculation, this could push prices up. Arguments against, for skeptics. On-chain activity is falling. This shows XRP's network isn't growing. Regulatory barriers remain insurmountable. Basel III can't simply be changed for one token. Competition is much stronger. Solana and others have already shown better results. Banks are choosing others. Western Union chose Solana, not XRP. That's a signal. 13 years of promises without results. XRP was created in 2012. For 13 years, it hasn't conquered international payments. Why would it suddenly happen in 2026? Price doesn't correlate with usage. Price rises because of speculation and news, but on-chain activity falls. That's a red flag. Practical strategy. If you want to invest in cryptocurrencies, 70% Solana, 30% XRP. This is a balanced approach. Solana has real value right now. XRP is a bet on long-term regulatory change. 100% Solana. If you believe banks will never use XRP at a mass level, as facts in 2025 show, then Solana is the better choice. 0% XRP. If you think XRP is a financial scam or at least an overvalued asset, avoid it. The key thing to remember, XRP is a speculative bet on a future that may never happen. Solana is a bet on current reality with proven usage and revenue. What will happen to XRP in 2026? Scenario 1. Optimistic. 20-25% probability. Clarity. Act passes Senate banking regulators slightly lower risk weight requirements. 1 or 2 major banks start experimenting with XRP at a real level. Price rises to 4 to 5. Scenario 2. Base case. 50-60% probability. Clarity Act doesn't pass. Basel III remains unchanged. XRP remains popular among speculators through ETFs. On-chain activity continues falling or stagnates. Price fluctuates 150 to 50. Scenario 3. Pessimistic. 15 to 20% probability. Crypto market enters a bear cycle. Investors realize XRP hasn't solved international payments. On-chain activity falls even more. Price drops to 0.80, 1 or 20. Scenario 4. Catastrophic. 5 to 10% probability. Ripple faces new legal problems. On-chain activity collapses. Price falls below 0.50. Conclusions, in simple terms. What is XRP? XRP is a cryptocurrency created by Ripple to revolutionize international payments. The idea is good. Make payments between countries instant, cheap, and transparent. Why didn't it work? Because Basel III regulatory barriers make XRP economically unfavorable for banks. XRP price volatility makes it an unreliable means of payment. Better alternatives have appeared, especially Solana. For 13 years, XRP hasn't conquered banks at a mass level current state. End of 2025. Price, 2.1, not growing, despite good news. On-chain activity, falling, 48% in 3 months. Partnerships, talk about 300 plus banks, but they don't use XRP ETFs, attracted speculative capital, but not real usage investment conclusion. XRP is a bet that regulators will change their approach to cryptocurrencies and banks will suddenly start using XRP at a mass level. This is possible, but unlikely in the next 12 months, 2026. Solana is a bet that international payments will be processed on fast, cheap blockchains. This is already happening now in 2025-2026. Western Union, PayPal choose Solana. Practical advice. If you already own XRP, don't panic, but don't expect miracles in the next year either. Consider rebalancing towards Solana, 70-30 or 80-20. If you're just thinking about buying, start with Solana. This is a less risky bet on a more real story. And remember, this is not financial advice. It's just analysis of facts available to everyone. Invest your own money at your own risk. Hi, I'm Anna, and this is your quick guide to economics and finance. If you want to understand what's happening in the markets and how it affects your wallet, you're in the right place. Let's go. If the video was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. See you.